The beginning of the 2025-26 NHL regular season for the New York Rangers is right around the corner. It will begin on Tuesday when the Rangers will take on the Pittsburgh Penguins on opening night for the entire NHL. But in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the practice lines from Thursday to kind of just continue to get a better idea on what we could potentially see for the opening night lineup. And also, we're going to take a look at 3 bold predictions from Yahoo Sports involving the New York Rangers heading into this upcoming regular season. So let's get right into it here, and we're going to start off by taking a look at the first of 3 bold predictions, and that is Igor Shesterkin winning the Vezina Trophy. Of course, he has already won a Vezina back in the 2021-2022 NHL regular season, where he was, of course, the best goalie in the entire NHL, pretty clearly, I think, and also was, of course, kind of in the mix as well for the Hart Trophy for a bit there. Of course, he didn't end up winning it, but was definitely in the mix at the end of the day, and I definitely think was kind of clearly the MVP, of course, of the New York Rangers. So he was definitely deserving to be up in the kind of conversation for the Hart. But at the end of the day, I do think, of course, since he has won that Vezina back in 2021-22 and having, a 935 save percentage and a 2.07 goals against average, it's pretty clear he has kind of taken a bit of a step back kind of each season since then, you could almost say. But I do think with how much this New York Rangers team has kind of revamped their defense core, and we saw the former defensive coach of the Rangers and Phil Housley, of course, get fired, and he is no longer with this coaching staff. I think with the new coaching staff coming in there, making some changes on that side of things, and adding in a guy like Vladislav Gavrikov, and now having someone like a Will Borgen for a full season, and now having a guy like hopefully JT Miller for a full season there. There are lots of moving pieces that we've seen there. Guys like Jacob Trouba, Ryan Lindgren, and Keandre Miller are now gone from this defense core. So we have really seen this team kind of do a whole kind of revamping of this team defensively. And of course, it's pretty clear that if this team is better defensively, it's going to help Igor a lot. If they can limit the amount of high danger scoring chances against, and limit the amount of shots against, and limit the amount of time they're getting stuck in their own zone, and they're able to break out the puck and just be overall better defensively, that will obviously help out Igor Shesterkin a whole lot and Jonathan Quick, but it definitely could mean we do see Igor Shesterkin get back potentially into the Vezina conversation, as he has, of course, now signed that massive historic goalie contract. That is all done. That is out of his mind, hopefully, and now, ideally, he can hopefully get back on track to being, one of the true best goalies in the entire NHL, which he has proven to be in the past, and, of course, consistently in the playoffs, but has only done it a few times throughout the regular season so far. So hopefully, he will get back into the conversation there of the Vezina Trophy being the best goalie in the entire NHL in the regular season. Then for the second bold prediction, it is Mike Sullivan finishing as a finalist for the Coach of the Year award, which of course is the Jack Adams Trophy, which I think would be pretty interesting. This is, of course, a coach who has not won it. He has yet to do that in his NHL career, but of course has been a phenomenal coach for many, many years. He's had a lot of success at the NHL level, has kind of been, I would say, pretty well known as one of the better coaches in the entire NHL. Whether or not you want to say he's, top 3, top 5, whatever. Overall, over the last kind of decade plus now, he's definitely been one of the better upper echelon coaches in the entire NHL pretty consistently, it seems like. So obviously, it definitely is possible to see his name kind of in the mix there. Of course, him joining the Rangers as well after having a pretty disappointing 2024-25 season. If this Rangers team does bounce back and, finish in the top, at least kind of 2 maybe or so of the Metro, it definitely, I think, is quite possible to see his name right in the mix there for Coach of the Year, if this team truly is able to have a pretty big bounce back season. And the third and final prediction before we take a look at the forward and defense lines from Thursday's practice is the Rangers making playoffs with ease and finishing second in the Metropolitan Division. And honestly, I don't think this is too much of a kind of, bold prediction necessarily. I think, maybe Mike Sullivan winning the Coach of the Year isn't the absolute most likely scenario. That's fair. That's a pretty bold one, you could say, absolutely, or at least finishing as a finalist. And then, of course, you got Igor winning the Vezina after, 3 not phenomenal, not elite years. Of course, he's had some pretty good years recently, but they haven't been at that kind of elite, true Vezina caliber level. So, yeah, I would say that's a bit of a bold prediction as well, sure. But honestly, I don't think the Rangers Rangers making playoffs with ease and finishing second in the Metro is that much of a bold prediction. Now, you could definitely say it is, but personally, to me, I think the 3/4 top teams in the Metro are all somewhat close. I don't think the Canes are drastically better than the Rangers or Devils, and I don't think the Capitals are far off either. Right now, I do kind of have for the top four kind of teams there, I kind of have them in like three tiers almost. I'll kind of put the Canes at 1, then the Rangers/Devils at 2 and 3, and then the Capitals at a close kind of 4. I think the Capitals will kind of, fall back a bit there, of course. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last season, which they were pretty incredible. It seemed like they kind of way over exceeded expectations. So I think they're going to take a bit of a step back, but will probably still be right in the mix for at least a wild card spot at minimum, if not competing alongside the Rangers and Devils for a top 3 spot. And, I do think the Rangers and Devils are going to be pretty close. At the end of the day, though, I do kind of have a feeling maybe the Rangers do, beat out the Devils there for that second spot and the Capitals. So right now, if I had to kind of, rank out those 4 teams and kind of guess where they're going to finish, I would probably go Canes 1, Rangers 2, Devils 3, and Capitals 4. I think this Rangers team is right in there to have a big bounce back season. There's no way and this team should be even close to as bad as they were last season there. This roster is just too good to do that. And I'm not saying this Rangers team is the best built overall, but for the regular season, we have seen this team have a good amount of success. So I don't see why this team, at least in the regular season, can't get back on track to being a really good team. We'll see whether or not they're able to get back on track to being able to, go on these kind of long runs there to these conference finals appearances like they've done, twice pretty recently. But I do think in the regular season here, we should definitely see this team get back on track, hopefully finishing in that top 3. So I don't think the second in the Metro and finishing, in a playoff spot with ease is that much of a bold prediction, but it definitely kind of is, as the Rangers definitely had a pretty terrible 2024-25 season. But that's also why I just don't see how this team is nearly as bad, because pretty much everything went as bad as it could have possibly been on and off the ice. Like, it wasn't just on ice problems. There was a lot of off ice stuff as well with, Trouba and of course Barclay Gaudreau and just everything else that kind of went on with this team. So I think there was so many problems on and off the ice. This team should absolutely be right back in the mix there for one of those top 3 spots in the Metro. So let's take a look at the Thursday practice lines now, and for the defensemen to start things off here, they are pretty interesting pairs. You've got in the top one, it being Urho Vakanainen alongside Adam Fox. The second pair being Vladislav Gavrikov alongside Braden Schneider. The third pair, Carson Soucy alongside Will Borgen. And the fourth pair was Matthew Robertson alongside Scott Morrow, the prospect. But of course, seeing a guy like Vladislav Gavrikov not alongside Foxy on that top pair, I think is pretty interesting and a little weird. I'm not exactly sure what they're going for here. Of course, that Soucy-Borgen pair has kind of been set together, it feels like, so that's not surprising at all. They'll be probably together on that second or third pair, I would kind of guess. But, Gavrikov and Schneider, 2 more defensive defensemen there alongside each other is interesting. And then you've got, Vakanainen and Foxy. Not quite sure what they're going for here. But then for the forwards on that side of things there aren't too many big surprises. You've got, of course, Artemi Panarin, Vincent Trocheck, and Alexei Lafreniere together. Then you've got Will Cooley, Zibanejad, and Gabe Perreault. Of course, Gabe Perreault is pretty much filling in for JT Miller, as you've got Zibanejad sliding into the center spot there on the second line, and then Gabe Perreault taking Zibanejad's spots on the wing. But once JT is going fully back in kind of the run there, of course, he'll take that center spot on that line centering, I would imagine, Cooley and Zibanejad, with Gabe Perreault probably just being sent down to the AHL to begin the season, I would guess, if JT is healthy. Then you've got, of course, Connor Sheary, Juuso Parssinen, and Taylor Raddysh as that third line, and then you've got for the fourth line, Adam Edstrom, Laba, and Rempe, and then the fifth line, Berard, Carrick, and Brodzinski. But I am kind of guessing that, with Carrick having kind of dealt with a bit of an injury so far this preseason, maybe they're just giving Laba a little more kind of time there to kind of really be in the mix there and just kind of letting the veteran kind of guy in Sam Carrick, who's probably going to be that fourth line center to begin the season. Maybe they're just kind of letting him kind of take that step back there and just play a little less. I don't exactly know why they're doing that, but I just don't feel like they're going to have a guy like Noah Laba on the fourth line to begin the season. But of course, you never know. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post a video about the New York Rangers every single day at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on those 3 bold predictions from Yahoo Sports, being Igor Shesterkin winning the Vezina, Mike Sullivan finishing as a finalist for the Coach of the Year trophy, the Jack Adams, and then also, of course, the Rangers making playoffs with ease and finishing second in the Metro. And also, what are your thoughts on these practice lines with, a guy like Laba on that 4th line instead of Carrick? Do you think it's kind of like what I said there, the injury with, Carrick just kind of giving him a little more rest possibly? What do you think that's about? And also, what are your thoughts on Vakanainen getting some time alongside Foxy instead of Gavrikov on that top pair? Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.